Hey, Freedom Middle School. This is Mr. Swartz, and today in Civics we're going to be learning about the documents that influenced the Founding Fathers. So we're going to be learning about documents like the Magna Carta, the English Bill of Rights, and the Mayflower Compact. Now you might be thinking, why on earth are we learning about these really, really old pieces of paper? And here's why. Have you guys heard of people by the name of, I don't know, maybe Washington or Jefferson? How about Madison, Hamilton, maybe Paine? I sure hope you've heard of these people. Well, guess what? Those people didn't just wake up one morning and were like, whoa, do you know what would be an awesome idea? The United States of America. You know what else would be pretty sweet? Freedom. They didn't just come up with those ideas on their own. They learned from these important documents. That's where they got their ideas, and they built on them as they shaped the United States. So take a moment to read over this learning goal. Students will be able to trace the impact that the Magna Carta, English Bill of Rights, and Mayflower Compact had on colonists' views of government. Read over the 4 levels. You can pause it if you need to take some time to read it, and then rate yourself on where you are. Once you're done reading it over, we'll be ready to move on. All right. Your notes today, you'll be taking them in a graphic organizer that looks like this. Your teacher may have given you a piece of paper with this already printed on it, or it's really easy to make your own. All you really need to do is divide any piece of paper into 4 boxes, 1 for each of the 3 documents. And then there's the 4th one. It's going to be comparing them all and finding out what do they all have in common. So either take out your sheet that the teacher gave you, or just create your own by dividing your paper into boxes. Alright, what do we mean by influence? Well, let's take a look at some of these examples. Right? We got a child and their mom, their parent. We have people and their friends. We have a teacher. We have a celebrity. Well, what do they have in common? How do they all influence? Basically, influence means to inspire, to affect the way you think or affect the way you act, right? All these people, you learn from them, you get ideas from them, you decide you want to be like them in some cases, right? With your friends, you may give in to peer pressure. From your teacher, you learn ideas. From a celebrity, you're like, man, I want to be like them. Your parents, you may not think about this, but guess what? They influence you a lot. They shape a lot of who you are. So today, we're going to be learning about not just those guys like Jefferson and Paine, but really where did they get their influence from? Who did they learn from and say, man, those are good ideas. I want to be like that. Alright, so here are the documents we're going to look at. Magna Carta, English Bill of Rights, and the Mayflower Compact. And they are from a time period called the Enlightenment. Alright, it's a time of ideas where people were just thinking about, like, what is freedom? What is this life all about? We're going to talk more about the Enlightenment later, but today we're focusing on these 3 documents. Alright, so how were things running back in the day? So back in the day, in Europe, pretty much every country was a monarchy, right? Whatever the king said, that was the law. If anyone had a problem with it, they could get thrown in jail. If the king didn't like you, he could just throw you in jail. And so this is called tyranny, which is the cruel abuse of power by a government leader. On your paper, write down this word tyranny and what it means, because it's going to be a really important word for us going forward, because all of these documents were basically trying to stop tyranny in some way. Alright, so the Magna Carta, here's the idea. A group of English citizens, alright, these are some of the more powerful and rich guys in the country, but they were below the king. They pressured the king to sign a document called the Magna Carta. And what it did, it limited the king's powers, and it said the king must protect the rights of the people. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is in Magna Carta, under Ideas, alright, you're going to want to write down these 2 words or these 2 sentences in yellow. If you want to summarize them or make them shorter, you can do that, but the main idea is that king, you can't do whatever you want. You have to respect the people. You have to protect their rights. So how does that connect to America? Alright, well, it did a few things. Alright, it came up with a lot of protections for the citizens, especially an idea called due process. That means a person has to go through a legal process and be treated fairly before they are thrown in jail. The king can't just pick you up and send you to jail because he doesn't like you, right? You have to be officially charged with a crime. You have to go to a trial where, you know, there's a lawyer and a jury, and you get to defend yourself, and then the jury decides if you're really guilty or not. It's not just whatever the king wants. And so this idea shaped our Constitution and the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution. So at this point, your notes should look a little something like this. All right, we've only learned about the Magna Carta so far. Here are the ideas, all right, and here's the connection to the United States. So the ideas are what did the actual document say, and then the connection is what did Americans like James Madison and Alexander Hamilton, as they influenced the Constitution, what did they take to shape our government and shape the United States? All right, let's talk about the English Bill of Rights. The English Bill of Rights was passed in 1689, and basically this took more power away from the king and gave more rights to the people, because it gave the citizens in England rights like freedom of speech, all right, and said the government can't take away those rights. They belong to the people. The people have these rights before even a government existed. All right, and this really inspired the Bill of Rights in our U.S. Constitution. So that's pretty easy to remember, right? The ideas, they listed rights like freedom of speech and says that all citizens have them. And the connection from the English Bill of Rights, it inspired the U.S. Bill of Rights, okay? All right, let's keep on moving. The Mayflower Compact. All right, here we have, I mean, you guys remember there's like a holiday around November where like you eat a lot of turkey and stuff, you know, Thanksgiving. Well, those same people did more for America than just create a holiday with awesome food. In 1620, when they arrived on a ship called the Mayflower, they decided, hey, since we're starting our own government all by ourselves here, right? We're off, we crossed this ocean, we're far away from the people we knew and the government that we used to obey. So we're going to set up our own government, right, and for ourselves. And here's what it did. They decided that people should be able to govern themselves, right? Not just have a king tell them what to do, but they can make decisions for themselves. They can come up with rules for themselves that they all agree to follow. And one of their biggest rules, because they were a religious group who used to be attacked and hurt and thrown in jail for their religion, they said, we can practice our religion freely. We can worship and follow our religion without being punished for our religion. All right, so here's why it was really important. Here's the connection part of it. It was the first written and planned out government by the people for the people. It wasn't the king. It wasn't some powerful people saying, hey, citizens, listen up. These are the rules. This is the way you're going to live. They said, no, we get to make up our own rules. All right, we get to start our own government. And a few hundred years, or less than 200 years later, that's what the United States did. They created their own country, created their own rules, and it was because these early settlers, these people who arrived in America, they started that on their own. They made their own rules for their own little town, their own little community. And here were some of the main ideas from it. They said that there should be fair and equal laws that help the whole community. It should be the will of the majority, meaning when we vote, like whoever gets the most votes, that's the decision. There was a contract basically saying that if you join our community, you have to follow these rules, right? This will help protect you, but you have to obey the rules. And John Adams, our second president, he said that it was the foundation of the U.S. Constitution. If we hadn't had this inspiration of, hey, we get to make our own rules, our own government, we never would have created the U.S. Constitution. So the Mayflower Compact, here's the ideas. People should be able to govern themselves with an agreed upon set of rules, and people can practice their religion freely. Here is the connection, right? It was the first form of government made by the people for the people. It was here in America, all right? And when we started the United States, we said, hey, we are going to make our own government for ourselves. We are not going to have the king tell us what to do. All right, so this last part, I can't tell you what to write. You're going to have to do some critical thinking on your own. So read over the notes you took on all three of these documents. All right, and then in this section, try to come up with at least 2 things, 2 ideas or 2 themes, 2 facts maybe, that all these had in common. All right, what is the Magna Carta, all right, and the English Bill of Rights and the Mayflower Compact? What were some things they had in common? So that is the last part. Interested to see what you write. You'll be discussing that in class with your teachers and your classmates, what you came up with for what they all have in common. That is it for today, Freedom Middle students. See you next week for another edition of Flipped Classroom with your civics teachers. Have a good night. Bye.